The greatest security that a seller can receive in any creative finance transaction is making sure their buyer can cash flow. I'm not gonna structure a deal where I get all the benefits and then my buyer can't cash flow. Why would a buyer ever default on a vehicle or a house or a business? All right, guys, welcome to video number 2 in selling a car on seller finance. Actually, did a video number 1 with Molly Tennant and Angelo Pena. He actually has a Turo course that I think is one of the best courses I've ever seen. Go over there, buy it. If you guys are trying to build a Turo business, he's the freaking guy. Out of everybody I've ever met. This dude has 21 cars in his fleet, and this will be 21?
Yes, this will be 21.
Okay, cool. So why am I selling it? Well, we've outgrown the vehicle. So I am a motivated seller, right? I'm a motivated seller. I go, look, man, I could sell this car right now. I went to Kelley Blue Book. Kelley Blue Book says that this vehicle right now, kbb.com, says that this Tesla is worth $56,000 private party, okay? $56,000. So I go, okay, I'm gonna give somebody terms, which means I could probably bump up my price a little bit as long as I'm willing to give them really low payment or even 0% seller finance on a certain portion of it. Because if I sold this on the open market, I probably would get like 50 grand, okay? Now, I owe on a car loan, I owe $35,000. Angelo is actually gonna take over the payments for this car payment, and I'm going to sell this vehicle to Angelo for $60,000. But what is cool about this is that Angelo is gonna come in with $5,000 down payment. He's going to take over the $35,000 loan that I have already set up. So he's buying that subject to, except it's not. It's through a lease option. Molly will tell you that in video number 1, so go back and watch video number 1. And we're actually gonna go through and sign the paperwork in this video, so stay tuned for it. I just wanna show you the structure. So $60,000, seller gets a little bit, but remember, everything is like a teeter-totter, right? So here I am, I'm the seller, and I've got a high purchase price. Well, I've got to give the buyer something to counteract. And so what I'm gonna give Angelo is I'm gonna give Angelo 0% interest on my remaining equity on this car. And I'm also gonna make it so he doesn't have to make any payments on my equity until this payment is paid off. So I'm gonna make it easy for him to be able to go out and cash flow, because the greatest security, remember this, write this down in the comments. This is very, very important. Show me that you're paying attention, write this down in the comments. The greatest security that a seller can receive in any creative finance transaction is making sure their buyer can cash flow. I'm not gonna structure a deal where I get all the benefits and then my buyer can't cash flow. Why would a buyer ever default on a vehicle or a house or a business if I allowed him terms that give him the ability to cash flow? He would never do that. It doesn't make sense. Why would somebody walk away from that? But I see a lot of sellers get greedy. They are greedy sons of guns, and they go, I want this much money down, this interest, and I want this payment. And then you go, is there any way I can cash flow? And they go, that's not my problem. Well, it is your problem. The greatest security a seller can ever receive is giving their buyer the ability to cash flow. Remember that, write that down in the comments. So $60,000 purchase price. I'm getting a little bit of benefit on my side because I'm the seller. I'm giving him a lower down payment. I think this is pretty good. You know, it's like, what is that, 8%? Pretty good. And then after he pays the $35,000 off, he will still owe me $20,000. But I'm going to give this to him at 0% seller finance. So there's another benefit to Angelo, right? You gotta make sure that teeter-totter balances out. You can't just take everything for yourself. Now, what we're gonna do in the rest of this video is Angelo is gonna break down what he does in order to come up with the cash flow of this and what does that look like. And then what we're gonna do is jump into watching Molly and Angelo go through, sign the paperwork, and we'll be giving that paperwork away to you. You might ask, Pace, why aren't you doing the paperwork? Well, I'm stupid.
Are you stupid or something? I'm as stupid as stupid does.
And I don't do paperwork, okay? I need smarter people than myself, people that are certified transaction coordinators. Don't just hire some transaction coordinator that freaking read this on the YouTube or the YouTubes or read a book. Make sure they are certified. Make sure they've gone through a course like Top Tier TC. And if you are somebody that wants to work from home, make a full-time income, or even more, we have some top tier TCs that are making $40,000, $50,000 a month, all the way down to TCs that are working part-time that are making $3,000 to $7,000 a month. How much you put into it is how much you get. Molly teaches people how to do this, not only for cars, but for businesses and for real estate. Top tier transaction coordinators for the win. I don't have to touch the paperwork. I'm allergic. If I touch paperwork, I break out in hives. And so Molly is gonna be doing that with Angelo at the end of this video, so stay tuned. All right, Angelo, where do you go to determine how much this could make?
So using Turo itself, Turo actually has a Carculator. Pretty
that's
good
very
play on words,
smart.
right?
Yeah, I like
the
that.
Carculator. So the Carculator, literally you plug in the make and model of the vehicle you have, and it gives you a estimate on what you can expect on a return on your investment.
Okay, so this payment that you're taking over is roughly $1,000 and I think like $10, somewhere around there. How much do you think you can make on this Turo, kind of on an average, if you just even it out for the year? What do you think is the amount of money you can make?
I believe
month.
this will generate around $2,000 a month.
Okay, $2,000 a month. Got it. So this will bring in $2,000. That's including high season, low season, dead season,
Average
everything.
throughout the year.
Okay, cool. So $2,000 a month, you got a $1,000 payment. What do you think your net will be after that? You'll be somewhere around $500?
A little bit more. Car wash, insurance, occasional maintenance, not too much on the Tesla. So I would say at least $700 a month.
Okay, $700 a month. Perfect. So you'll make $700 a month on this car, which is great. So your initial investment of $5,000 that you're putting into this car, you will get that back. It sounds like about 8 months. You'll get your initial investment back, and everything after that is just going to be cash flow, which is pretty awesome. I mean, if you think about the cash on cash return for this, your cash on cash return compared to, Abraham's here hanging out with us, and he's talking about how much he loves real estate. But the reality is, this is pretty phenomenal cash on cash return.
Well, you don't even know. It's better than you even think. His cash on cash return is infinitely because I'm his PML? PMP.
Oh, you brought the $5,000 to the table.
Yeah.
Guys, Abraham Gray, he what's great, this is kind of a love triangle going on right now. Abraham and I are partners on roughly 30 properties. We do a lot of lending together. Abraham is one of the greatest leaders our collective community has. He's unbelievable, does a lot of real estate transactions, tons of lending. You guys are Subto community members. Go into Deal or No Deal. Abraham and I will buy real estate with you. Abraham's the best. He's like the bank of Abraham. Why don't you have a bank, bro? The bank of Abraham.
I have a bank.
Is it called Flip Flop Bank?
Exactly. Man, he knows my bank.
I've never seen Abraham wear anything but flip flops. So down in the comments, write flippy flops. So you are infinite cash on cash return. And so what's your guys' nature of your structure? Are you gonna get your $5,000 back before you guys start splitting cash flow? What are you guys gonna do?
No, so we have a structure where we have a certain split every single month. Basically, after the car is paid off and sold, we just have a partnership on that. But really, I don't get my money back first, but I get most of the money back first. So he still gets money every single month because he's doing work and everything else, and it's only fair. Like you said earlier, the most important thing you said, but I mean, by far that everybody should know is you have to make the deal good for everybody. You can't just make the deal good for yourself, right? So if he's not getting any of the money until I get all my money back, he's working for free for 8 months. That's not really super fair either. So he gets a portion of it. It's not 50-50 yet, but it's.
So basically what you're saying is out of this $700 that comes out is that Abraham will get like 60% and Angelo will get 40% until the $5,000 is paid back, and then you guys go to a 50-50.
Pretty much, something like that.
Okay, cool. All right, so guys, these things are important, super, super important. So Angelo, you guys will put $5,000 in, your investment will come back really quickly. Your cash on cash return yearly, because it is infinite. It's infinite because he didn't put $1 in, so every dollar he receives is for not putting any money in. He's not getting a credit check. I don't know, are you a legal resident of the United States?
Last time I checked.
It doesn't matter, actually. I really don't care. But he is, and he's awesome. Dude, you own a bunch of cool businesses. What's the other business that you own that is cranking right now?
Spin Art Phoenix. So Spin Art Phoenix is a creative art studio that we opened back in July, and actually my partner I met through Abraham. Just being Abraham's masterminds over the year, he introduced me to one of his partners, going back to that business love triangle that you're talking about. But I met Dimitri and he introduced me to a concept, and we've had some really great success since we opened. We've only been open for 4 months, and we've had some celebrities stop by and a lot of exposure on TV and all this stuff. So it's been going great.
I love it. Okay, so cash on cash return. Here's what's great about this deal for Angelo is why would Angelo pay $60,000 for a car that's worth 56? Well, because he's getting favorable terms. He's not having to go through the whole bank process. He doesn't have to do anything. Plus the Tesla's in tip-top awesome shape. But if he did this deal himself at $5,000, his cash on cash return, he would be receiving $8,400 a year in cash flow, right? That's the net times 12 months. So what's $5,000 divided by 8,400? Do that math for me, Molly.
8,400.
$5,000 divided by 8,400.
That's 50 or 60%.
Okay, so it's a 60% cash on cash return for this deal. So this is awesome. And the best part about this is that he's also paying down the debt. So at some point, the car will be paid off. He'll continue to cash flow. He might even sell it at some point, roll that money into another vehicle, and that's how business is done. So
This is a 60% cash on cash return for year one. What happens after year one?
it's infinite.
Exactly.
It's already paid back. Yeah.
Exactly. So like it's only 60%, which is unbelievable for year one.
Yeah.
After that,
You're paid back.
yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. So it's a really, really good deal. And even if he was making $500 or $400 or $300, the amount of money he's putting into the deal for the amount of money he's getting back, it's a really great return. In a lot of ways, it's way better than real estate. Some people are shooting for like, I want a 12% cash on cash return. This annihilates that by a 5x margin. So let's do the paperwork. I want to cut in here while we're making this video and let you know that we have the Squad Up Summit coming up. Go to squadupsummit.com to join. I'm going to tell you why you should be coming. You should be coming in and learning creative finance, creative deal structure, creative lending, creative paperwork, all the things that creative finance is changing the game with. My community is coming out. Subto, Astro, Gator, Vina Jetty's community, top tier transaction coordinators are coming out. All the people that do the creative finance paperwork, yeah, you're gonna meet them there. So if you feel like you're an island out there, like maybe you've read this book, right? You've read Wealth Without Cash. You're like, okay, what next? Cool. Well, now you know what you can do. You know what's possible. But who's going to help you get through it? You've got to meet some of my leaders in the community, and the best place to meet them is at the Squad Up Summit, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Orlando. I want to see you there. I'll be out there hanging out, some of the best speakers. I'm going to be the main real estate speaker. Jamil's going to be the main real estate speaker. We'll have Vina Jetty and some other people, but it's actually going to have a lot less speakers than most events. While everybody else is trying to cram speakers and give you way too much information, we're going to be building your business live. We're going to be giving you homework right there live. We're going to be guiding you through it, so when you walk away, you've actually built something, you've done something, and you've squad up with powerful leaders in my community that we've been building for years. Go to squadupsummit.com. I can't wait to see you April 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Orlando. Get back to the video.
Now we're going to talk about the documents. Now, Pace Morby loves to say if you're a top tier TC certified transaction coordinator, that you're gonna do all the paperwork. I'm gonna say there's a nuance to that. So I sit in an operations position for Pace. I did help with filling out this document, but I didn't do it on my own. I consulted with Sean St. Clair, who is our attorney who drafted these documents originally. Sometimes these terms are gonna be a little bit tricky. So if you're a seller or if you're somebody looking to do these documents, can a top tier TC help you? Absolutely they can. But what they may say to you is, maybe we should consult with Sean, or maybe we should consult with somebody who is maybe your attorney to make sure the terms look correct for this specific deal. For example, I'm gonna give you a really close example here of why you need to use an attorney or somebody that's in your best interest if you have complicated terms. This is a hybrid deal. We talked about breaking down the deal. We have an underlying loan and we have a seller carry portion to this. So there's equity there. When you do these docs originally, the way they're originally written, it really only references an underlying loan. So I needed to get a little bit creative with adding that section to that. So I reached out to Sean St. Clair and I said, hey, I have your original docs. I filled all the information out, but I don't know if this is exactly correct. Can you edit it for me? He's probably gonna charge us a few $100s. Maybe he spent an hour on it. It was well worth it because what he told me when he got done is that because Angelo is buying in an LLC, because he's using it for business, he doesn't have any personal guarantee against this. And so we want to protect Pace's interest, we want to protect everybody involved, and we want to get a personal guarantee on top of that. And you want to make sure it's appropriate for the state that the car resides in. So it's something I wouldn't have known unless I consulted with Sean St. Clair. So a top tier TC can help you, but just remember, they may also consult with other outside individuals to make sure it's protected on all parties. So the first document we're going to start with is this lease option agreement. It has everything in here as far as your information. The first information is the existing loan information. And then this second part, this is where it got confusing for me. We're gonna talk about the initial payment, which is what Pace talked about. It's roughly $1,000 for the initial payment for the underlying loan. That's only for a certain period of time, right? That ends in 2026. Then after 2026, the payment for the seller carry portion starts. And that's where all of this gets a little bit confusing. I didn't exactly know how to write it. I'm not an attorney, so I reached out to Sean St. Clair. Then of course it talks about monthly payments. The initial payments are gonna be made directly to the lender. Remember, I don't have a servicer, unfortunately. If anybody finds a servicer, let me know. I'm always here to get help from other people. So I don't have a servicer, it's gonna be made directly to the lender. I'll give you that login information. You can get logged in, change the two-factor authentication, get your information changed in there, and get it set up on auto pay. Then from there, the additional principal payments after that's paid off are gonna have to go directly to Pace. So in 2026, a few years from now, you're gonna reach out and say, Pace, can I send you a billpay.com? Can I do a bill every month with you? Or can I send you a Cash App or a Venmo or whatever, right? However you figure that out, that's fine. Now I will say, if you ever do this in the future and it is a full seller carry, so for example, Pace sold his vehicle, his F-150 on full seller carry, that guy does a Cash App every single month. And so you have to decide what method you prefer. Sometimes using bill.com, sometimes using, Chase Bill Pay or whatever it is that you use is appropriate, but you want proof of how they're going to do it and proof that they're making that regular payment or setting it up as an auto payment every single month before you get to closing. Okay, so first monthly payment starts December 1st, 2023. It's in green because there's all these other dates on here and I wanted you to know first payment's December 1st. So it's shortly after November. You are making a down payment of $5,000. So next payment won't be until December 1st and you'll have everything updated and you'll be ready to do that then. The option purchase price is the balance of the loan, so the underlying loan, plus the $19,701 in equity that Pace has. Now, if you were to pay this off after you paid this balance of loan off, then obviously this could be less than that. That's another portion I needed his help with writing out, because I was like, how do I write this out and make it make sense? So I did attempt it, and then I said to Deshaun St. Clair to make sure that it was correct. This portion I wrote in, so it talks specifically about insurance. So we wanna make sure the insurance you provide does have gap insurance. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that when you call to get gap insurance, they may ask for some additional documents. If we need to do additional documents like a mechanic's lien or something like that, or a promissory note, whatever they need, we're gonna have to ask them, then we'll prepare that after this. I don't know what they're gonna want. We will figure it out. But I reached out to Pace's wealth advisor and he said, all of these are the stipulations for liability insurance. He wants $250,000 per person, $500,000 per occurrence, and $100,000 per occurrence for property. That's pretty general, I feel like. I think Pace has some pretty beefed up stuff with his own vehicles, but I think this is pretty usual for your insurance. Okay. All of these, like I said, there's definitely a lot of disclosures in here, so you can read through those additional disclosures. There's one that specifically talks about GPS. Now this is a Tesla, so I think it's pretty easy to figure out where these vehicles are. So we'd probably figure that out pretty quickly. And then there's all these documents talking about the authorizations. We'll talk about those next. That's gonna be your authorizations regarding the insurance and the lender and the insurance proceeds authorization. It does say permitted mileage. If you wanted to change that, like say if you ever sold a vehicle and you only wanted them to drive it a certain amount of miles, then you could limit how many miles that was in here. And I know typical leases will limit the amount of miles you can drive a vehicle until you have to actually purchase it. You could do the same thing within this. So remember, you guys, these are completely customizable, right? These are gonna be Word form documents that you get. Use these as templates to then go talk to the professionals, whether it's your attorney, whether it's Sean St. Clair, which is Pace's attorney. Use this as a template, bring it to them and say, this is what I'm trying to do. How do I do this the right way for this state? These are all just additional disclosures. And then of course you'll sign, Pace is the lessor, you're the lessee. So you'll sign here and Pace will sign here. The next document is the assignment of insurance proceeds. This is in the case that you were to keep the existing insurance in place and just add your name to it. That's very unlikely that you'll do that. Most of the time we don't do that. If there's weird reason, one thing I meant to ask you earlier, I had heard recently that if someone's car had been stolen, that it affects the insurability of the vehicle. Have you ever run into that?
Yeah, I've actually heard the same thing. I haven't run into it personally, but I've heard the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes the cars are even salvaged because they've been stolen.
Yes.
So,
and there's nothing wrong with them, but it's just because they've been stolen. So that's something I've recently heard. And so that Carfax would tell you whether the vehicle had been stolen, because I think sometimes even a seller wouldn't realize that the car is no longer insurable or it's considered a salvage title. And so you couldn't do something like Turo with a salvage title vehicle. So very, very interesting stuff that we hear. And of course, I know there's gonna be a lot of top tier TC trained, certified TCs that are gonna come back to me and say, hey, I have a client and they ran into this weird scenario. So we're always evolving. We're always amping up these documents. These will get changed over time. If you guys ever run into a scenario, reach out to me, reach out to Pace, reach out to Angelo, and we can figure it out with you guys. The next one is the authorization to release information. This again would only be if you were taking over the existing insurance, or if you need to cancel this insurance, you're going to use the power of attorney that's in here along with this authorization to release information. Important thing to note here is that how Pace owns the vehicle, like it's registered, and how it's insured actually shows up different. So it's insured under him and Laura's name, but it is owned under his company. And so obviously his company is owned by him, and I'm sure that's why it's okay for it to do that, or there's probably an additional interest that is the actual LLC. But when you're collecting this information up front to do these documents, you wanna make sure you see the actual insurance policy and you see how it's written, so these documents can be drafted just the way it's written on their existing insurance policy. That's why we bounce back and forth between Moving Forward Ventures and their names personally. Then we have the authorization to release information. This is with the lender. So this talks about the loan, it talks about the EIN number, it talks about the make and model of the vehicle, and then of course it's releasing that authorization to you individually. Some of these you'll see I write your name and your LLC's name because you're gonna be the individual representing your LLC. Some of these I just write your name because it won't matter. This is that durable limited power of attorney. This is a general power of attorney. It was prepared by an Arizona attorney, Sean St. Clair. But on top of that, we're going to get the state-specific power of attorney, which is the last document here. So that's the state-specific one that Pace will sign over to you. This state-specific power of attorney is going to be your most important document, because this would be if you were to move out of state and you had a different power of attorney for that other state, that's how you'd be able to go there and register this vehicle in this original name. Right? Okay, now the last one is the notice of change of address. This is only going to be if you were in that scenario where you didn't have a login for the dashboard of the actual loan. If you didn't have a login, then you would have to send this in to whoever the original lender is and say, hey, I now have authorization. I need you to change this address and I need you to be able to talk to me. So you'd send the authorization, you'd send the power of attorney, and you would send this notice of change of address. They would then verify with their borrower that this was in fact true. And of course, Pace would say, yeah, it's true. I did it, right? And then they would change all that information over. In the case of this deal, you'll be able to change it all over in the login, and I'll give you that before we close. Okay, so that's it. That's all of the documents that you'll be signing with Hannah today.
Sweet.